Hey everyone, just a reminder that I do stream on Twitch at StoopChild with 3 O's, giving away 2 awesome skins once I hit 50 Twitch follows there. So if you like my content, check me out. Ask questions, tell me I suck, do whatever you need to do. And if you do enjoy the content, please like and subscribe on YouTube as well. Hey everyone, we're back with another patch update note breakdown. As I always say, this is more specifically for the Joust game mode. I'm going to be going over all the item updates that are coming out in patch 8.11. which is the Transformers update. As a reminder, this patch is coming out on November 16th. I'm recording this on the 11th, so there are about 5 days until that happens. Before we get into the item breakdown, there is a couple changes that are kind of bug fixes that are still related to Joust that I wanted to just highlight right away. The first one is that to play ranked Joust, you're going to have 14 own gods at level 2 mastery or greater. You're also going to have 30 PvP casual Joust matches played. So if you don't have both of these things, you're not going to be able to get into ranked Joust games. That's kind of a change from a couple patches ago, so don't be surprised if you are kind of locked out of those ranked games. You just have to meet these 2 criteria first. The other one is, you guys have probably noticed if you play Joust at all, is there's a couple areas on the map where enemies are untargetable. They can't take any damage. They can sit there and back and do whatever they want to in that small little area. That is going to be fixed in this update as well. So just a few more days left of that bug, and that should be squashed when this update comes out. Let's get into why you're here, is the item updates, all of the changes happening in this next 8.11 update coming out on the 16th. The first blurb here that they have is actually kind of about the Smite World Championship. So because the World Championship is played at the end of December, this is kind of the last patch that has significant changes. They're probably going to do a few tweaks here and there, but everything in this patch is most likely going to be set in stone for the rest of the year. For the rest of the year, you're going to have one kind of meta that you can rely on. So it is important to internalize these changes and make sure that you're using them and remembering them throughout the next month and a half or so. The first item that's being changed is Death's Toll. As far as I know, this item is still actually banned in Joust as well as Duel, but I still want to just highlight it in case for some reason, I didn't see it in the patch notes, but if it comes back, if they bring this item back into Joust, it's increasing the physical power from 15 to 20 and increasing the magical power from 30 to 35. If you're playing Joust, you probably even barely remember what this item does. It is a pretty good sustain item. You get 2 health back, you get 1 mana back upon hitting an enemy with a basic attack. So if you struggle with kind of sustain in the early game as a hunter, this can be a good item. One thing that I would recommend is not necessarily leaning towards hunters in Joust. I don't think they're that strong. But if you do, this can be a good option if you need some of that health and mana sustain. Gilded Arrow also getting a slight change, increasing the basic attack damage from 20 to 25. So basic attack damage, you're getting 20 on top of everything else. Now you're going to have 25. As a reminder, you do get 50 health and 7 MP5 from this item. But if you're a hunter looking for a way to kind of make sure you're staying ahead or in line with gold, Gilded Arrow is a really good option. You get 7 bonus gold and 20% attack speed every time you hit that marked enemy. So keep this in mind. Sometimes I think the more hybridish items can do well, but Gilded Arrow is still it's a more selfish option. But I think in Joust it can actually work just to keep you in line with that gold that you want to be farming all game long. The next item getting a bit of a shift is Benevolence. If you are at 50 stacks, you gain another stack for any reason. You're near an ally. The stack will be automatically consumed for gold, but you're going to remain at that 50 stacks. You're decreasing that health from 100 to 75. So just as another reminder, similar to Death's Toll, this item is actually banned in Joust and Duel right now. Again, I don't think there are any plans to bring it back in this next patch. I didn't see them in the patch notes, but I still just wanted to go over it very, very quickly, just so in case that happens that you guys are prepared. Here's the passive. Every second you're not near an ally, you gain 1 stack, stacking up to 50 times. For each assist, you gain 4 stacks. While near a damage ally, you spend those stacks, and you get health equal to 15% of your health, 0.15% of your maximum health, and each stack consumed, you get 1 gold. So if you look at the very first sentence in this description, every second you are not near an ally, you gain 1 stack of Benevolence. The problem in Joust with this item specifically is that you're never not near an ally. If you're building this item, you shouldn't be near an ally, but in Joust that's just insanely difficult to do if you're playing it correctly. So regardless of if this item comes back in Joust or not, the way that this passive works, it is just very, very inferior to the other two Guardian items, Sentinels or War Flag. So I would just say stay away from this item altogether, regardless of what kind of adjustments are made and if it becomes active in Joust again. Vampiric Shroud getting its power increased from 25 to 30. As it stands now, it has 25 magical power, 5 physical procs, 100 health, and 5% magical lifesteal. You also have the passive of damaging an enemy with an ability, gives you 4 health and 6 mana. Pretty good item in Joust. You're going to get a little more power from it. This is the item that you build if the other team goes, double physical, something like that. You just need a little bit more survivability, or you're leaning into kind of a lifesteal heavy build. I think this is actually a good item in Joust, if not a little bit selfish. Even people like RDO as a Guardian can build it. Get some damage, have some lifesteal. She rotates through abilities very quickly, so you can get more of that health and mana restoration back. So this is a good item in Joust. A little bit selfish, but still good. Sigil of the Old Guard getting a couple buffs. Now has 5% damage mitigation as a stat, no matter what happens, regardless of stacks. Keep in mind that this is the upgrade to Warding Sigil, so you have to get to level 20 to actually make this item happen. But if you get there, that 5% damage mitigation is really good for free all the time. Damage mitigation is pretty powerful and underrated, I think. You're also increasing the duration of the passive Rebuke buff, which provides stacking damage mitigation up to 12% from 5 seconds to 8 seconds. So when you get hit by those abilities, if you get hit by one ability, it's 4%. I'll go to the item here so you can see that. But when you're hit by an ability, you gain a stack of Rebuke, decreasing damage by 4% for 5 seconds. The change is making that to 8 seconds. So you're going to have a little bit longer of a time period that those Rebuke stacks are going to be active and mitigating damage. So if I'm doing the math correctly, again, this is always something that you probably want to test in jungle practice once this comes out, but you can get up to 12% damage mitigation for 8 seconds if you get hit by 3 abilities like right away. Plus now the upgrade is also going to have an additional 5%, so that's 17% damage mitigation with this new upgrade. That's pretty good. I think this item is already really good in Joust if you have a double tank team and one of your tanks can dive very heavily. It can be used very offensively, but now with this mitigation, you can use it even more effectively and survive longer. So yeah, I think this is a really good item. Try it out, jungle practice. I think it should be 17% mitigation, but like I said, until it comes out, it's kind of hard to actually say for 100% if that's what's going to happen. Either way, it's going to be good. Infused Sigil also getting a couple buffs, decreasing the stacks required to trigger an explosion from 4 to 3, and increase the passive's base explosion damage from 500 to 600. So as it stands right now, here's all the stats you get, already pretty good. Again, have to get to level 20 to even upgrade this item, so sometimes going to be fairly rare, but once you do, the passive is when you're hit by an ability, you gain a stack. Once you hit 4 stacks, it explodes after a half a second, dealing 500. This is going to 3 stacks, and it's going to 600 damage. Now, there's no time limit on this as far as I can see or what I've been testing. So having less stacks and more damage is going to let you get off a ton of damage if you're diving and getting hit by abilities. If they know you have Sigil, I guess they could always just ignore you, but that's going to be hard to do if you're dishing out damage yourself already too. So this item, not exactly sure why they're buffing it. I kind of already thought it was pretty good, but they do buff things around Conquest, so maybe they weren't, it wasn't performing as well there. But this item is going to be very, very good. I think I may have seen that they did a PTS update or like a mid-patch update where they already reverted it to be 4 stacks. Let me know in the comments if that's true or not, but I still think either way that the Warding Sigil into either one of its upgrades is going to be very, very strong, and if you're looking for an even more offensive option, the Infused Sigil is going to be really, really great. Warrior's Axe also getting a little shifting in this patch, increasing the cost from 600 to 650. That's putting it in line with Warding Sigil, removing 75 health from the item, decreasing physical protections from 15 to 10, but now Warrior's Axe is getting 15 physical power and 20 magical power. So just as a reminder, you're still getting 10 physical protections in this update. You're going to keep the 10 magical protections. This 75 health is going away, but now you're going to get 15 physical power and 20 magical power. Warrior's Axe has a really good passive. Damaging an enemy steals 35 health away from your target, regardless of who they are, and restores mana. I think this item is going to be pretty strong for Guardians in this next patch. 20 damage right away is pretty nice, and the ability to steal health just kind of lets you sustain, as well as restoring mana. I know it triggers only every 8 seconds, but I think you're probably going to see this item quite a bit. 15 physical power is also good early as that first item, especially when you're kind of stealing that health away from your target. You may be able to outtrade early on when you couldn't before. So look out for this item. It's probably going to come back into the meta a little bit in 8.11. Honestly, all of the warrior kind of starters seem to be really good in their own situations. Sundering Axe, one of the upgrades for Warrior's Axe, is also getting physical power. It had 0 before, it's going to 40. It had 0 magical power before, that's going to 65. And it's removing all that 250 health. So if you look at the Sundering Axe upgrade, you're still getting these protections, you're not getting the health, you're getting 40 physical power and 65 magical power. So like I said, with the Warrior's Axe, 65 magical power is pretty good, and the extra physical power is just definitely more useful at the end of a game than the extra health. Passive is still really good too, stealing percentage of the protection from items and current health away from the target, restoring that to you. So again, this upgrade is better for more of like if you're facing a double tank, because there's more, percentage of the enemy health, and you're probably building tanky, so you have more percentage from protections from your items. So this, if you're going to double tank, could be the upgrade. That obviously relies on you building Warrior's Axe first, which you may not want to do. But regardless, if you're looking for that kind of boxing, chunking of the other team's tanks, this will be the item for you. Hero's Axe, the other upgrade from Warrior's Axe. Again, level 20 is where you have to get this. Increasing physical protection from 35 to 45, increasing magical protection from 35 to 45. I thought this was already a pretty good item to upgrade to. Now you're getting 10 more physical and magical protections. 30% CCR is really, really good. 300 health is nice too. But if you need something that's going to keep your teammates alive, if they get CC'd, you're going to give them a shield equal to 15% of your max health. So if you are building one of those very, very kind of health-heavy gods, this is going to be a really good item to keep your teammates alive. I think this is an underrated upgrade, especially on people like Cthulhu, who has just a ton of health. If you get a shield equal to 15% of Cthulhu's 4,000 health or whatever, that's almost a 600 shield. That's obviously if you're building max health on him, but just as an example, that's how good it can be in certain situations. So if you're looking for a more defensive upgrade on Warrior's Axe, this is the way to go. Lotus Crown getting its cost increased by 100, so instead of 2,050, it's going to be 2,150. Still, I think that's a fairly cheap item for power, physical prots, and MP5. All three of these things are really good in Joust specifically, and if you're playing a healer, they get that increased healing and that magical protection for 3 seconds or 5 seconds. So still really good if you're playing a Yemoja, if you're playing an Ardio or something, Terra. This item can be really, really good. Obviously only usable on those healer gods, but 2150 compared to 2050 is not really going to deter you from building this if you were building it before. Mystical Mail also getting a cost increase, going from 2350 to 2450, also decreasing the physical protection from 40 to 35. This 40 to 35 I don't think is too detrimental. and this 100 extra gold cost isn't really that bad either. If you're looking at this tree specifically, I think Mystical Mail and Sovereignty almost have to be built in the first 3 items, especially if you're a Guardian in Joust. They're just too good stat-wise for what they give you. Health, they give you 40 physical protections, which is really good, and CCR is so useful in the early game, so you can get away from some of those engagements early. Plus the power that you're kind of passively dealing at all times if you're diving the enemies, which is something you should be doing as a tank in Joust, is just very useful. You can even get kind of cleanup kills on people if you're chasing them out of fights. So still going to be a really good item. Save up that 100 gold. It's really not going to matter. Just don't buy that extra pot at the beginning of the game, or do a chalice instead at the first when you're first leaving base, and you'll have that extra 100 gold pretty easily. So still a good item. Probably one of the top tier items in Joust. This to me is maybe the most interesting buff to any items, just because it's an item that is almost never picked up right now. It's getting its power increased from 100 to 120, added 20% CCR. Like I said a couple item breakdowns ago, CCR is really good in Joust, and it's increasing the mana shield on the passive from 20% of your max mana to 30%. So you're going to have a little bit more survivability if you're building kind of a mana heavy build. But let's look at Book of the Dead. I know for a fact that you guys haven't looked at this since I don't know when, because it's been a garbage item forever. But you're going to get 120 magical power. If you drop below 40% health, you get a shield equal to 30% of your maximum mana. Can only happen every 90 seconds, so not going to be insanely useful, but it may help you survive something that you wouldn't have survived before. And you're getting 20% CCR on top of both of these things. So looking at this item, 120 magical power is good. Obviously, that's a ton of magical power. I'm going to be trying this item out on a couple Guardians. I think it's going to help some Guardians dive. You're going to have that survivability early, maybe not necessarily the protections that you want, but I'm definitely going to test this out. It's interesting. I don't know if this will come back into the meta, if it ever was in the meta before, but it's certainly a lot better than the stats that it has now. For 2600, this is just not what you want, but 20% CCR is a really good stat, 20 extra magical power is a really good stat, and 10% more of a health shield can be useful too in situations. So I'm excited for it. I'm going to try it out. We'll see. Staff of Myrrdin getting a cost decrease from 2800 to 2650. That's pretty significant. 150 is 3 pots, so that's usually where I like to kind of tell the difference of how much gold something actually takes to buy. And increase in magical power from 85 to 95. If you guys remember, this was kind of when this item was first reworked, people thought it was going to be everywhere. It didn't happen that way, but 10% magical penetration, 10% cooldown reduction. CDR is really good in Joust. Passive is the very unique one. When you have an ultimate ability that is finished casting, you gain Myrrdin's Brilliance, 70% uncapped cooldown reduction, decaying to 40% over 6 seconds. So this really allows you to spam abilities after you hit your ultimate. Similar to Book of the Dead, I think this might be more useful on Guardians, specific Guardians, if you're thinking of someone like Geb, or if you're thinking of someone like Xing Chen. Ton of damage that they can kind of deal out in a quick succession, and now you have the ability to CC people for longer as well. And every 45 seconds isn't really that long of a cooldown to wait for that Myrrdin's Brilliance. So I think this might help it come back a little bit. 2800 is really expensive for what it is, but 2650 is a lot more easy to swallow. So check it out. There's also other mages too. I mostly play Guardians, so that's why I talk about it in that context a lot, but there are also some mages that can probably use this pretty effectively. Someone like a Giannis, or I don't know, someone like that can just really spam abilities, Baron Samedi. So I think you probably will see this item picked up a little bit more often than it has been for a while. Fail Not getting a little buff to critical strike chance. It's going from 10% to 20%. But if you look at the other stats, it has 40 physical power. So this is going to be 20% critical strike chance, 20% CDR, 10% physical penetration. All these things are pretty good. The passive is kind of weird. When you hit your ultimate ability, within 8 seconds, your enemy can land a critical strike. Has a 20% chance to. Honestly, I don't think that's that useful in Joust specifically. And the thing that keeps me from building this item is that it's 2,800 gold. There are just so much other items that would cost that much that work so much better. And crit builds kind of already take a long time to come online in Joust specifically. Hunters aren't that great in Joust, so even though this change is probably going to be somewhat good for it, I don't see this item being picked up any more often than it is right. The last item getting a little bit of a buff in this patch is Executioner, getting increased physical power from 35 to 40. 2,200 gold as a total cost is really cheap. Getting 40 physical power that early will be pretty good. The mace tree is just very cost effective right now for what it is. But if you're somebody who wants some attack speed early, the basic attacks against an enemy reduce the physical protections by 7%. So this item can be good in the right hands. I think, as I always say, the hunters struggle in Joust until late game. But this item with the shift to 40 physical power, 2,200 gold, you might be able to slot this in on certain auto attack assassins or warriors after you get a couple tank items. So worth a shot. I think it's always a good item if you can get it to work. If you can stick to your target and stack those physical protection reductions, you can shred through tanks pretty easily too. So double tank metas, this item can be pretty nice. So that's it for all the item changes happening in update 8.11. As a reminder, this comes out on November 16th. So you have a little bit of time to kind of get ready for it. I'm probably going to post this on the 11th or 12th. Hopefully you can review everything and get yourself ready and prepared for the last month and a half of ranked and kind of grind up there. If you did learn something new or this helped you get prepared, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitch. All of that helps me out and lets me know that these videos are useful to you. So again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next time.